Welcome back, first graders. It is another Friday and we are so close to the weekend, but today we get to do our last lesson on main idea and details. I'm really glad that you were able to join me. I'm excited to see how today goes for you. I hope it's going to feel even easier today with all the hard work you've been doing to improve on finding the main idea and details. So let's get started. You know what you need to do. You gotta get your turn and talk partner, grab your notebook, and grab something to write with. Go ahead. So this week we have been reading Birds, Winged and Feathered Animals. Today we are going to really think about that main idea of this text and the details that support that. Let's start by reading our objective. I can retell a nonfiction text by identifying the main idea and important details I learned from the text. Now remember, we're finding those main ideas, the main idea and the details, because that's what helps us retell a nonfiction text. And it's really important that you can do a strong retell, because that way it shows others that you're really understanding what you're reading, and it shows you that you're really understanding what you're reading when you can retell it in your own words. And remember, retell just means to tell about or to tell again. Okay, let's read it one more time together. I can retell a nonfiction text by identifying the main idea and important details I learned from the text. So in order for us to do this today, you're going to have to get your details web ready once again. So I've been seeing students who are spreading this out across 2 pages to give them more room. Absolutely do that, please. You can spread yours out as big as you need to. And if you can get that done now, you can write details web on top, have your big space in the middle for your main idea, and your 6 boxes for your details. Go ahead and create that now. Okay, so do you have your details web ready? You have your writing utensil ready? Okay, let's get started. We are going to review how to find main idea, because to be honest, today when me and Eggy, we were talking about this book, Birds, Winged and Feathered Animals, it was kind of hard for me to think of the main idea. I knew the topic. The topic is who or what the book is about. What do you think the topic is? You can tell your partner, the topic is... Great, you probably said, the topic is birds. You're right, that is the topic. That is what the book is all about. But we know that a main idea isn't just the topic. The main idea, you take your topic, birds, and you stretch it out into a sentence. What about birds is this book telling us? So in order for us to do a good job of doing this together today, I'm going to do a really quick picture walk to remind you of what the book was about. So we're not going to reread the words necessarily. We'll reread the headings, because those are big clues about what the pages were about, and we'll look at the pictures. You ready? Okay. So we have a world full of animals. This page was talking about feathers and wings. Oh yeah, this page talked about bones and blood. That they are warm-blooded, they have the air in their bones. Oh, beginning as an egg. Home sweet home. Oh yeah, it talked about all the different places they live. Perching and water birds, how some birds live in trees and some birds live in water. Oh, hungry birds. This page talked about what they eat. Flightless birds. Remember how some birds like penguins and ostriches can't fly? And strange birds. Remember those really special birds that had some quite unique qualities. Okay, and then that was it. We had our classification chart and some fun facts at the end. So we have reviewed with the picture walk, with a walk of the headings. that was quite helpful. So what would you say? How can we turn the topic of birds into a sentence? What is this book all about? Okay, so I know that is so tricky, and I told you it was hard for me and Eggy too. So practice, 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 and it will feel easier. This is what we came up with. Your main idea might be a little bit different. If you like yours better, you think it's better for what the book was about, go ahead with that. If you like ours better, you think that makes more sense, then you can, of course, go ahead and use what we wrote. This is what we wrote down. We said that the main idea is that birds are different and alike in many ways. Do you remember the other day when we made our Venn diagram? We had our two circles comparing and contrasting two different books. I thought about that today when I was thinking about the main idea. This book, I feel like, talked a lot about what birds have in common or the same. And it also talked about what makes different birds unique from one another or different from one another. So that's why I chose this as the main idea. Birds are different and alike or the same in many ways. Okay, what do you think about that? If that makes sense to you and you're ready to go, let's keep going. If not, you can pause the video and talk with your Turn Talk partner about this main idea. See if you can understand this one or come up with a better one. Go ahead. So, for those of you who are sticking with me and going straight on, let's start thinking about our details or those little toppings that go on our big main idea pizza. If the whole book is about how birds are different and alike in many ways, what are the little details, the little toppings that prove that? What in the book showed me how birds are different? And what in the book was an example of how birds are alike? Let's think about some. One that I had found, I'll put this up here, was on the page about what they eat. I had noticed that it talked about this. Some birds eat meat, like insects and rabbits. Others eat seeds and fruit. All birds have beaks and no teeth. So when I was thinking about that detail of, well, let me think, how are they different and alike in how they eat? This made a lot of sense to me. Some eat some things, others eat different things, but what they have that's the same is that they use their beaks and they don't have teeth. Does that make this true? I think so. Okay, I want you to think about the other sections of the book and try your best again to come up with some of your own details for these other 5 spots. What else were some examples of how the birds we read about are different and how they are alike? And remember, you have to really make sure that you're talking about facts that this book talked about. Some of us sometimes are writing in our own facts that we already knew that were not in this book. And I almost did that today too. So you have to catch yourself and make sure, oh, wait, was that my background knowledge? I already knew that. Or was that from the book? Okay, go ahead. Okay, so you are probably a little exhausted from thinking about other details to add to our web. Let's see how you did. I wonder how many of ours are similar. Another detail that Eggy and I found was this one. It said, many birds migrate hundreds of miles every year. That was something that showed how they were alike. We also found this detail. Birds live in all kinds of different places. See, I'm talking about how they're different. Like forests, deserts, gardens, lakes, and oceans. Remember in the book how it talked about all the different bird habitats? Water and forests and jungles and deserts. That was an interesting thing that stuck out in my mind about how they are quite different from each other. Another detail that proves that birds are different and alike in many ways is this one. All birds have feathers that protect their skin and keep them warm. I remember the book taught me that, but the book also said some, the water birds, have oil on their feathers. And remember, the oil on their feathers is what keeps those feathers dry, so it's okay that they get wet in the water. That was something similar, but also something that's a little bit different about some birds' feathers. Another detail we found was this one. They have air spaces in their bones that help most of them fly. But I remember the book also said penguins and ostriches can't fly, so I also put in some can't fly. Do you remember that? Awesome. Even though most of them have this in common, it's a little bit different for some of them. And finally, our last detail was all birds start as eggs and are cared for by their parents when they're young. I remember in the beginning of the book, it had said that even though there's 10,000 different kinds of birds in the world, all of them have certain things in common. Feathers and wings, which we talked about, a backbone, lightweight bones, we talked about their bones, and a 4-chambered heart. They are warm-blooded and they hatch from eggs. That part about them hatching from eggs is also mentioned later on in the book, and I think was something that all birds, since they have that in common, I wanted to list that as a detail. They all begin as an egg, and it also said that the parent birds bring food to their young until the young are old enough to leave the nest. So that's where I got that detail straight from the text. And it shows me some ways that the birds are alike. Okay, so lots of really meaty details this week. I feel like in the beginning of our lessons, our details were a little shorter, and now that we're getting better at this, our details can be a little more detailed, a little longer, a little more explicit. So now that we have our details up, it is time to, that's right, retell the story. So we are going to retell this book, Birds, Winged and Feathered Animals. But it's our last week doing this together, friends. So you know the challenge. You get to try it first. Retell your partner all that you learned about birds, winged and feathered animals. It can be from our detail web or it can be from your main idea in detail web. Go ahead. How did you do? Oh my gosh, Aggie and I, we're so excited to hear you retelling these books, and we wish we could be there with you to cheer you on and say, whoa, way to go, because this is really hard stuff. All right, Aggie, I'm going to take a crack at it now. I'm going to use this to help me retell. Here we go. I should include the title of the book always. The book, Birds, Winged and Feathered Animals. The topic of the book is birds, and it's all about how birds are different and alike in many ways. I learned many birds migrate hundreds of miles every year. I learned some birds eat meat like insects and rabbits, others eat seeds and fruit. All birds have beaks and no teeth. I also learned birds live in all kinds of different places, like forests, deserts, gardens, lakes, and oceans. I learned all birds have feathers that protect their skin and keep them warm. Some water birds have oil on their feathers. I learned they have air spaces in their bones that help most of them fly, but some can't fly. And finally, I learned all birds start as eggs and are cared for by their parents when they're young. That was a lot, but I feel proud of myself. I was able to really think about this book and try my best to retell it. How do you think that I did? Thank you very much. I tried my best. So this is our last time doing this together, friends, but it is not the last time you will do it. you should continue doing this practice of thinking about what's your book all about, the main idea, and thinking about its details when you're doing your own nonfiction independent reading. So remember, a couple of lessons ago, I taught you guys how to use Post-its as you read. It's a really great tool to mark in your book some important details you think tell about the book, tell really important stuff about the book. And when you're done reading and you've got your Post-its in there, then you can use those to retell your book to someone who hasn't read it yet. Now, you'll notice that I had also used these sentence stems. So if you ever need that, you can write them down in your own notebook. You can also come back and watch these videos later and use that to help you. And you can always use your own sentence stems that you make up that help you retell the book. Like one that I didn't have here, but I kept saying a lot. Even though I would tell the topic, I would also say, it was all about, when I was about to tell the main idea. So that's something great for you to practice too. Okay, well, Eggie, we shall say goodbye. Oh, you're right. Oh my gosh. Eggie caught me. We have to tell or look at our reading objective one more time. Eggie, good call. Okay, here we go. Let us check how we did. Oh, okay. Yes. Let's read it together, Eggie. I can retell a nonfiction text by identifying the main idea and important details I learned from the text. How did you do? I think you guys deserve like 10,000 high fives for all the awesome work that you have done today. You should feel proud of yourselves, and I'm excited to see your main idea and details webs. Okay, great job. And next week we'll be reading a new book, and I'll have a new Turn and Talk partner. So make sure you tune in to see what it's all about. Until then, bye.